So my plan for this weekend was to make a plexiglass bubble window. But the other night on my way home, I heard this. You know what that means. Time to change the brake pad. Luckily I already had rotors and pads waiting to be put on, so it's not like it's a big surprise or anything. Just a big hassle. So I'm gonna go ahead and tear this apart, see how bad it is, check the bearings. The plan is to reuse the bearings. Picked up a couple wheel seals, but we'll see how bad everything is once I tear it apart. Alright, let's get into it. Welcome back. So it's been probably over a decade since I changed the brakes on this thing, so I'm not surprised that it needs it. I have been keeping an eye on it over the years. I knew we were getting close to that time, but since it was 10 years ago or more, I have to refresh my mind on how I did this. It looks like it's just your basic Ford setup. So down here there's this 1/2-inch bolt. Sometimes it uses like a Allen wrench, 1/4 inch I think. This is what it looks like. And then you have this metal piece in here with a spring, and the metal piece slides in between the caliper and this piece and holds it in place, and then the spring holds it so it doesn't rattle around in there. So we're just going to take a punch and a hammer and knock that out, hopefully. Yeah, there it goes. Whoopsie. So here's our caliper. Here's our worn out brake pad. Looks worse than the front one, but not horrible. I don't see any metal sticking out. Here's the other one. That one looks a lot better. Just gotta set the caliper up there for now so it's not hanging by the rubber hose. Check out this rotor real quick. That side looks pretty good. This side's got, I don't know what that line is there. That's not really good. It's pretty rough. That's okay, we're changing the rotor anyways. So now I'll work on that. I'm just going to take off the dust cap. There, it's off. Pull out this cotter pin, take this little locking thing off, then we can take the nut off, just pull the whole rotor off. Plan on getting dirty and greasy when you do this. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera off, and I'll turn it back on after I clean my hands. Okay, I got the rotor off. The spindle looks great. Went ahead and wiped it all down. I checked the outer bearing. It looks good. I'm gonna have to use the seal puller before I get the inner bearing out. Oh, and my bad. This was a 9/16 bolt, in case you were keeping track. And here's the metal piece that I knocked out. And this is the spring that goes on top. I'm going to clean all this up real good and grease it, because this is what allows your brakes to slide as they wear down. And we'll cover that when we start putting everything back together. Now on the other side, I've got it all tore apart. Spindle looks great. The outer bearing looks great. The brake pads look way better. I did notice on this side that it had this spring on the caliper which holds the brake pads in place. So I'm wondering if that's why the other side wore out faster, because it didn't have the spring. So I'm gonna have to look that up and see if it's unobtainium or if I can just go pick it up, because I would like to put it on there. Maybe pick up two, because that one I have is pretty rusty. Here's the caliper, and as you can see, it's a 2-piston caliper. because it's the 3/4 ton van, the E250. Okay, I guess I'll go clean bearings and re-grease them and get the other rotors loaded up and ready to go. We can start putting all this back together. Time to get greasy. Alright, we're in the garage now. This is the passenger side rotor. I believe that I changed that the last time I did brakes, so maybe that's why those brake pads are in better condition. This is the driver's side rotor. As you can see right here, there's a ring going around there. That's what was making the noise. This is the brake pad that was up against it. You can see right there where that's that line. One of the other issues I had on the driver's side was there was always brake dust on the wheels. And it's because the brakes would do this, where it would wear above the rotor, and then it just rubbed the rust on the top of the rotor, make it go all over the wheels. Hopefully I can not have that problem this time. I was also checking out the other pad from this rotor, and look at that. How the top is so much thinner than the bottom, so it wasn't wearing even. I'm not sure what caused that, but maybe that's because of the spring. Maybe this problem was because of the spring wasn't pushing it down. I don't know. So I got the bearings out of the rotors. They're over here. Here's the wheel seals. They were still good, but we're going to go ahead and replace them. There's the inner bearing. I don't know if you can see that, but it has no scoring or any kind of damage. The rest of them are the same way. This is one of the front bearings. And here's the new stuff. As you see, it came from a little bit of everywhere. Sometimes it's hard to find parts when you got an older vehicle. Not everybody wants to carry that stuff anymore, so you get it where you can. So here's my new rotors, brake pads, and wheel seals. Once I get that done, hopefully I'll have time to put in that fuel pump I bought like 2 weeks ago. Be nice to have that finally taken care of and get rid of that oil leak. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and throw the bearings into degreaser, let them soak for a while. I'm going to look up parts, see if I can find that spring. And after I get those all cleaned, repacked, and in the new rotors, then I'll bring you back in and we'll go ahead and assemble everything. Alright, I found some springs. So I ran into the big city, picked those up. Of course, only one place around had that, Napa. Everybody else is going to be till the middle of next week. If you're working on an older vehicle, always check Napa. But while I was in the city, I let the bearings soak in the degreaser. So I'm going to pack those now. Get it in the new rotors, at least the rear ones, or the inner. So we'll get the bearings packed, put the inners in the rotors, put the seals on, and then I think I'm ready to put everything back together. So I'm going to go ahead and pack one of these bearings for you so you see how to do it. I'm just going to do it by hand. What I'm using for grease is Blue Bunny peanut butter cup. It sounds good, but it tastes like crap. So I'm going to set up the camera. I'm going to go ahead and throw some gloves on just so I don't have grease clear up to my eyeballs. We'll get these packed full of grease and ready to go. This is the way we put on our gloves. We put on our gloves. We're just gonna scrape some grease into the end of it, into that open spot. I'm gonna try to pack it in there as much as possible. Jam it in there wherever you can get it. Get it in this side too. It's a lot of fun. No, not really. It's big messy though. Keep that in mind. Alright, I think this bearing's about good enough. When I put it together, I'm going to pack a bunch of grease inside the rotor too, just to help keep things greased up in the future. Once that starts spinning around, it's going to push the grease out to the bearings. Alright, calling that one good enough. Go ahead and pack the rest of them. We'll put it all together, I guess. Yay. Let's do the rest of them. Okay, just about ready to put the rotor on, but before I get everything in here, I want to push the caliper, the pistons back in. So I'm going to use the old brake pad and a C-clamp, and I'll push both of them in at the same time. Once I do that, I'll go ahead and grease up these edges that actually touch on here and are supposed to slide, and then we'll slap everything together. I think I'll start with the C-clamp and work our way to the finished product. Alright, so I got the caliper pushed in. That's good to go. Down here we're gonna grease this. This is where the seal runs. We're gonna get some grease on that so that seal's not starting out dry. It's a good way to ruin a seal. And we'll slide the rotor on, pack a bunch of grease in it, put the other bearing on, bring it back in when I get to that part. Okay, before I put the rotor on, I put a bunch of grease inside there, slid it on, and I used my grease gun, pumped a bunch of grease inside there. Spins good. You want to tighten it down pretty good, like as far as it'll go. And it's a little hard to turn, and you back it off a little bit. Put your little lock thing on there and your cotter pin, and this part will be done as that cap goes back on. After that part's done, then we'll do the brake pads. Okay, so I already got the spring on there. That's the one I had to go get. The caliper's in there. Now we got this part that slides in. Make sure you grease it up real good. The spring goes on the top of it, like so. There's two notches on this side. That's what you want facing out, because that's where the bolt goes to hold it in there. And you want everything greased up real good so that your brakes self-adjust and they can move easily. Let's see if we can slide that in there. It's the opposite of the way it came out. Sometimes you gotta tap them a little bit, get them in there good. I think I actually tapped that in too far, so I'll tap it back a little bit. And I'll stick this bolt in. I'm gonna put some anti-seize on the threads. These are small bolts and sometimes they like to rust up and break off when you try to unbolt them. So I'll go ahead and get all that done and this side will be done. We can jump on the other side, which is exactly the same thing. So I'm not even gonna bother to show you. Alright, I got both sides on. Everything's greased up really good. I'm gonna pump the brake pedal a few times to push the brakes in and so it's not a big gap when I first take off. So usually you gotta pump it like 3 times to get the brakes to seat. Sun's starting to go down now, so tomorrow I'm gonna go ahead and change the fuel pump and then we'll seat the brakes. What I mean by that is we're gonna get up to speed and hit the brakes real hard like 3 times, 3-4 times. Just get everything kind of wore into place and we should be good to go on that. Eventually I might have to change the rear brakes, but I'd like to change the whole rear axle, so see if we can put it off till I get the axle changed, hopefully. Alright, I'll be back at it tomorrow. I'm gonna go ahead and throw these wheels on and get it back on the ground. Next day, time to work on the fuel pump. It's way down in there. A couple weeks ago I tore a bunch of stuff off the engine, everything off the front, hunting down oil leaks and antifreeze leaks. And then I found out oil was leaking out of the fuel pump. So now we're going to finally take care of that. Hopefully that takes care of it. And the new fuel pump isn't a piece of junk, but won't know till we put it on there. So what I'm going to need to do is I got 2 9/16 bolts that hold the fuel pump. There's a hose clamp coming from the tank to the pump, and then there's this metal line right here. So I'm going to need a wrench to take off this and then pull those bolts out. Should be easy swap. Go grab the rest of the tools I need and get started. Okay, I got the old fuel pump out. This is where it was leaking. Here's the new fuel pump. This one is a Delphi. This one is a Carter. It's like 20 bucks more. I hope it lasts longer. So if I had any tip to give you, one tip I would give you is when you tighten up the metal line on here, put a wrench on this part, because these like to crack, and then it'll leak fuel everywhere. Whether it's running or sitting still, it doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and lube this up on here and put a little lube in here, and we'll slap this one in. Hopefully it works. Alright, I finally got the fuel pump in. I think I had about enough of this thing for the weekend. Now I just gotta fire up and make sure the fuel pump works, and then break in the new pads and rotors on the front, and it should be good to go. Well, as always, thanks for hanging out at Van Gogh Garage in Little Carburetor Spring, Colorado. Bye. Alright, I took it for a drive a little bit ago. The fuel pump goes and the brakes stop. Can't ask for more than that. Now maybe I can clean up this grease lick down here.